What is up, guys? It's Sandal from Substance Over Star, and welcome to a new video. So we got a bit of frankincense on the go. Guys, I really recommend, you get some frankincense, incense. It's so good for if you have any type of anxiety, any type of depression. It just really lifts your mood. And I'll show you what's amazing. This stuff. Okay, so this stuff is nice for just everyday use. But if you really want a proper hit of sacred smoke, this frankincense, this is just some frankincense that I bought in Bali. I bought from Bali Eka. He sells it in bulk. So if you're in Bali, you can contact Bali Eka, or you can just go to your local, metaphysical shop, and they'll sell these little resin, or you can order them online. I'm not like plugging this or doing any kind of like, affiliate link or anything like that. Like, I don't have a brand that I can recommend other than Bali Eka. But just get yourself some of these little resin, frankincense resins. You just heat up a charcoal disc, put one on, and it just billows of this beautiful, just biblical smoke. Oh my god, so gorgeous. It just smells so luxurious. It smells so divine. Yeah, top tip. Okay, so I wanted to do another video this week. I actually wanted to do one last week as well, because I don't know if you guys know, but I did a live on Thursday with Laura Cherry, and that was going to be last week's video. And then unfortunately we lost the live. We were doing it live on Instagram, and we both had a power cut at exactly the same time, and Laura got kicked off. And because she had started the live, I think basically how it works is, if it was your live that somebody else jumped on, you can save it onto the grid. But yeah, I don't know. I think if somebody else joins, like it didn't give me an option to save the live and have it on my grid, because I think she started it, so we lost the live. And I was really gutted, because we did a really, she guided us through this beautiful dance journey, which was amazing. For those of you that were there, it was really fun, really playful, really helped to like move some energy. And then I did an activation, and it ended up being, like not just a light body activation, but also a grid work activation. And what came through was really, really powerful. And I really feel like it was some interference that made us lose the live, because I think it would have been really powerful if, everybody who needed to receive it received it. But if you missed it, I did post about it on my Instagram the other day. There's a little like a boomerang selfie where I'm wearing like an orange jumper, and I posted everything that came through in the description. So have a read of that if you want to know what work we did, and if you're kind of trained in this work, or you know how to do it, you could probably just tune into the field and see if you can pick up on that upgrade. So yeah, it was just a shame. It was all about like the Arthurian Christ masculine and the Emerald Heart. We did an Emerald Heart template activation, and then we collapsed out dark grids, going all the way from the Avalon grids here in the UK, connecting to Uluru, because obviously there's a lot of like a lot of dark stuff happening in that part of the world. I mean, it's everywhere right now. It's obviously not just Australia, but Australia is particularly intense, as I'm sure people have seen. I mean, it's at the point now where they're not even, it's like, last year not even last year, 2 years ago, when all of this broke out, people warned, they're going to be, forcibly juicing everyone. And they want to bring a social credit system, Chinese style social credit system, where you're going to have to comply with everything that they say, including getting juiced every 6 months. And then if you don't comply, they're going to lock us up in internment camps. And people were told, you're a conspiracy theorist, it's not going to happen. And now they, even the mainstream media are like, we've had some people who've escaped from the internment camp, from the quarantine camp. So they're not even hiding the fact that they're putting people in camps now. They're just totally fine and feel completely justified in doing it. And this is how I mean, we're seeing tyranny being rolled out on a global stage, and I know that a lot of you are scared at the moment, and fear is a totally normal and rational response to what's going on, because, you know, what they're doing is insane. And the thing is, we knew that this was going to play out, because this is what needs to play out in order for the collective to wake up. And so I've been processing some thoughts around this, okay, because obviously we know that people need to collectively wake up so that we can actually start to create new systems that are more in alignment with universal laws. And as long as we allow ourselves to be governed and have somebody else take care of, you know, all the lawmaking and not hold leaders accountable, we will continue to see the issues that we have seen on this planet for eons, for as long as we can remember. This is not like a new thing. This is how things have always been on this planet. Okay, so if we are to actually start seeing, and the thing is, like, we've got to start seeing it in the mind first. Okay, we've got to believe that a better world is possible, that a more just world is possible, that, you know, a society that is in alignment with natural laws, in which people aren't oppressed, in which they aren't coerced and forced and enslaved, and all the things that we've been seeing on this planet for such a long time. We've got to believe in the possibility of that before we can actually start to manifest it. Okay, your first thing that you have to get right when you're trying to manifest anything is believing it in your own mind. Okay, and then reality starts to shift. Okay, now secondly, we do require a critical mass of people to be awakened in order to anchor this, because you can't just anchor it in by yourself, or if we're very, I mean we maybe can do it with the numbers that we have now, because if you think about it, how was this whole thing run for such a long time? You know, they didn't have big numbers that were actually in control, did they? It was ruled by a small 1%. So, you know, even if the people who are awakened are like 10% or 30%, that is probably enough to start anchoring in new systems. But are we just replacing one system for another? Because even if you're awakened, are you going to be completely incorruptible? I mean, there's levels to it, okay? It's not just like once you become awakened, then that's it. You just become this enlightened person. There's a massive difference between being awakened and being enlightened, okay? And there's a complete difference between being God-sourced and being fully Christed and, you know, walking 100% in alignment with the truth and with the love frequency and with, you know, natural justice and all of that stuff. Very few people are at that point. Very few, okay? I can think of one in particular. Y'all know who it is, okay? His name's Yeshua, more commonly referred to as Jesus Christ. He's the only one that I can really think of. Obviously, there were other people on the Grail mission, different, you know, Grail Kings and Grail Queens who were on the Sophia Christ mission throughout history, and there are other names as well, you know, like people like Joan of Arc, Isis, Osiris, Akhenaten is another one. So these are all from like the Egyptian times. But there have been many. King Arthur is another one. But I'm not sure if any of them actually achieved the levels of light body purification that Yeshua was known for. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm sure there are some people that don't believe the story, but it is perfectly possible for somebody to be buried underground or to be, you know, crucified, and for them to resurrect if they've activated their siddhis, they activated their light body through Ascension technologies such as Kriya Yoga. I'm not saying that Yeshua would necessarily practice Kriya Yoga, but he would have done some kind of practices like that, like, you know, similar to what the Cathars were practicing and the Essenes. I mean, he was one of the Essenes. You know, and many of these monastic orders and these, you know, sadhus and, you know, holy men throughout history have practiced, you know, ascension technologies, such as breath work and asanas and kriyas and meditation, in order to purify their light bodies. So where am I going with this? Yeah, so I'm talking about anchoring in new systems. So in order to have a system that actually works for the people, you do need larger numbers of people to actually step up into leadership. And for that to happen, people need to actually be awakened, to what's going on and the consequences of what happens when you give your sovereignty away to others and you don't hold them accountable for, you know, making sure that laws are in alignment with natural laws and serve the collective rather than just being like overlords. Understanding that the people bring the government into being, and the government is not like, doesn't control people. They're supposed to be servants of the people. So people need to awaken to these truths of, you know, just reality and just truth in general, and what is moral, like what is right and what is moral. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of moral relativism on this planet for too long, and that's why, you know, when people are in a state of cognitive dissonance, they don't, you know, they're not operating at their maximum function. Okay, so, you know, to be honest, most people, the reason why they're not fully awake to what's going on is because I think a lot of them are just too busy. They're too hopelessly enslaved by this system that is siphoning. And I talked about this in my activation, and I dropped out a lot of this siphoning from the Christ masculine. Our masculine energy has been massively targeted. Our feminine energy has been targeted as well, but our masculine energy has been massively targeted by the debt slavery system. It's like this siphoning, parasitizing our life force energy through taxation and interest. And, you know, for those of you who've studied the fiat currency system and how it operates, you will understand this harvesting, this siphoning. And that's why we see things like, you know, pyramid schemes, and the whole fiat currency system is one big pyramid scheme, and so is our political system. It's feudalism, right? So people need to awaken to that. But also, I see a lot of people talking about how we need like mass disclosure of everything that's been going on. Everything. I'm not just talking about with this whole recent events, but, you know, how it's all interconnected with all the SRA and how they are on borrowed power, and the more what's the word? The more multidimensional kind of spiritual aspects of how they've operated like this for so long, how they've been, you know, just basically operating on stolen power for so long, and how they've managed to do it. So we need people to awaken to the multidimensional reality, and this is not just like a physical thing that's going on, okay? It's obviously, you know, when you are born into this reality, into this matrix hologram, you are born into slavery. You know, a lot of the ancient texts and all the, you know, religious texts will talk about this, okay, that we are born into slavery. And as we awaken to our God selves, that is where the true liberation comes from. So I'm digressing. Okay, so when people are saying that we need mass disclosure in order to wake everybody up, that's totally oxymoronic, okay? Having some kind of mainstream media, big mass disclosure, this is the truth about everything that's been going on, that's not going to wake people up, okay? People awakening is the opposite of that, okay? When people wake up, they do not need somebody to spoon feed the truth to them, okay? When they wake up to their own God-given intuition and start being able to put two and two together, okay? This is what happens when people have cognitive dissonance, okay? When we suppress the right brain, the feminine aspect, the intuition, okay? We tell people, okay, you can feed people as many facts as you like because only their logical mind is in operation, okay? They've completely suppressed their own intuition. They don't put two and two together because they cannot fill in the gaps, which is why when you say to people, oh, they're doing this because of this, so if you look at this, that connects to that, and this is part of their great big plan and their agenda, and this is what they're planning. And NPCs be like, what's your source on that? Oh, show me a reputable source. Don't show me like a dodgy YouTube video. I want to see like a scientifically accredited source from like The Guardian or something like that. They literally want that from you, okay? Because they have no God-given intuition, because they're completely, right brain is completely suppressed. They're not operating at all cylinders. They've not fully activated the Hieros Gamos, which is, you know, knowledge, plus intuition equals wisdom. They have no wisdom. And unfortunately, we're dealing with a lot of these people on the planet, okay? And, you know, I don't try to theorize too much about why or how or who they are, but Emily, my mentor, has done some videos recently talking about who these people are and why. I mean, I have said before that, you know, I feel like those of us who can see what's going on and have been able to see always, like, have always had that kind of like intuitive, like, can tell when we're being lied to, generally tend to have, you know, an akasha that comes from outside of this reality. So we might have had lifetimes in other star systems and things like that, and we may have been sent here with a particular mission template, so that's why we can see what's going on. We may have had our memories wiped when we come in here, but not completely, like not fully, and we can, you know, we can access those memories if we really want to. There are ways to actually access our memories by, you know, activating our vision templates and, you know, learning how to, you know, just access the quantum field and our own akasha and stuff like that. Not saying that it's an easy process, but it can be done. Generally, I have felt like, you know, NPCs or matrix agents, people who basically just, they will just fight to defend the matrix no matter what, no matter how much evidence you present to them. They will just fight the matrix. Like, either your source is not accredited, or you're a tinfoil hat nutter, or you're an anti-V, or you're this or you're that, and they'll just attack you. Okay, so I've talked about this in previous videos, okay, because you're starting to threaten their reality, and the cognitive dissonance is starting to kind of glitch them out a little bit. So my theory was that they've just basically been recycled in this matrix for eons. So, you know, when they die, instead of going back to source and then having a full life review and then deciding where they want to go from there, they just basically get fed on by the archons as they leave. It's this kind of like a trick. So, you know, those people who've had, who can, you know, not necessarily astral travel, but who can travel in the different multidimensional realities, or have full vision template and can see the multidimensional reality, or people who've had near-death experiences, have seen that there are various traps that can, you know, that are set up for people as they leave their body upon death. And what can happen is, if a person doesn't know where to go after death, a lot of the time, if you listen to people talk about their NDEs, a lot of the time people will die and not know they're dead. Sometimes they don't know they're dead, and after that they don't know where to go. So Howard Storm, was it Howard Storm? Howard Stern? Howard Storm, he's a pastor now. He had a really, really beautiful near-death experience. He's done like a whole interview. I think I've talked about him in previous videos. Have a look at his story, because it will help you understand. But also, if you read the Robert Monroe books, which I've also talked about in previous videos, he talks a lot about how he would help lost souls who were basically stuck in the astrals because they didn't know they were dead. They would even be like walking around near their body, their physical body, and be like looking at it really confused, like, what the fuck, like, that looks like me, but why am I standing here? And they wouldn't realize that that's actually their dead body, and they're now past, and they've, because we exist beyond the physical body, right? If anybody's popped out of their body during the dream space and walked around their room, I've done it several times, you'll know that we can exist without the body. Our consciousness is bigger than just this physical body. This physical body is more a receiver of our consciousness. So where was I going? Yeah, so there are certain consciousness traps that, you know, certain people, when they pop out, they won't know where to go, and then sometimes they'll get fed on by the archons and they'll be completely recycled, and then their energy will just dissipate, and then maybe they'll come back in another form, but they won't be complete, they won't have their soul intact. So Emily basically talked about this in previous videos, and Emily's gifts are obviously extremely high level. She's a multi-dimensional clairvoyant up to 15 dimensions. So she said that, and you should watch her videos, I have linked them before, so watch her directly, but I'll just paraphrase what she said, that they were basically created to defend the Matrix. That's their purpose, okay? And So nothing that you say is actually going to wake them up. They're just not going to. And they can mimic, though. I do feel like, my personal opinion is, I feel like they can mimic when something starts to, when the consensus starts to shift, then they'll go and they'll become really, so they're the people that are jumping on this woke bandwagon. When it was dangerous, like when you were seen as like a troublemaker or a feather ruffler, if you were, you know, talking about the whole left narrative about, you know, anti-colonization, anti-racism, anti-misogyny, all of that stuff, when it wasn't cool, they would attack us. You know, I was speaking up about those things many years ago. Now that I feel like the consensus has shifted and we've started to recognize that we do need to be more inclusive, they're now the ones jumping on that bandwagon, and they actually tend to, because they have no proper intuition, they tend to become exactly what we were fighting against. So they will basically become like the police. Not that like literally the police, but they'll start policing everybody for, oh, you said this thing and that's transphobic, and you are racist for saying, did you misgender me, and how dare you, this isn't a, and that, like, I've had people even tell me that I'm racist against myself, that I have internalized misogyny, all kinds of stuff, like, just, it's just ridiculous. And so, you know, these are all the people that will police everybody for not complying and for not being obedient little slaves. So when the consent, like, okay, so if you need mass disclosure to wake these people up, that's not true awakening. They're not actually going to wake up. They're just going to jump on whatever the consensus is and just mimic. They're almost like a program. Like, if you believe in simulation theory, like Elon Musk likes to talk about, they're literally like background people. They're NPCs, they're non-player characters, okay? Not saying they don't have a soul essence, but their soul essence hasn't been kept intact throughout all their different lifetimes. So that's why they're a bit more, they just don't have that same depth, okay? Look, I don't care what anybody thinks of what I'm saying or if I'm being offensive. Like, I literally don't care. I've observed too much of how these people function, and I'm just going to speak the truth as I see it, okay? So, and personally, I don't think any of them are going to be watching this video anyway. So until it starts becoming cool to think like how we think, and then they're going to jump on it. And I have actually started to see some people, this is what's happening now, because we're going through such a mass collective awakening. A lot of people are now joining our communities, and some of them are a little bit like this. Like, they will literally be the kind of people that will jump on every single conspiracy theory. Like, okay, that the earth is flat. Okay, so somebody has done a video on how the earth is flat, and so the earth is flat and we're being lied to. Or all celebrities are transgender. This is the thing. So those of you who are in my Telegram group know that there was actually a person in my Telegram who was actually quite active in that group, and, you know, as part of my wider community, would send me videos all the time. Actually knowing from the industry, who then started smearing me, saying that I'm transgender, which, by the way, can be disproved with just like a 5 to 10 minute Google search. I'm not going to tell you how, but a lot of people know for a fact that I'm not. Not that it matters, because I don't really think that it's a problem I don't think that there's anything wrong with being transgender. I have a lot of transgender friends, and some of them are fucking hot, and they look, you know, way better than some cis people I know. So I'm not offended by it. I just think it's hilarious, and to me it shows a total, it makes me not want to be part of that whole scene. And, you know, I understand why a lot of normal people, you know, call us like crazy tinfoil hat nutters, because there are some people who are in our communities that literally are nuts and don't have healthy discernment, okay? So this is where I talk about the Hieros Gamos, and Mark Passio teaches this as well, okay? You can't go flipping back and forth between one and the other, okay? So generally people who are still in the matrix and conform to the mainstream narrative tend to be extremely left-brain thinkers. So it's all logic, it's all evidence-based, and, you know, unless you have solid peer-reviewed evidence to prove that something is true, they're not going to acknowledge that it's true. On the flip side, you've got people who are more right brain and who are so open that they lack discernment and they're not evidence-based whatsoever. They get a hunch and they just run with it. And they will literally see signs everywhere, even where they don't really exist. Like they'll go, oh, look, so-and-so has, you know, a strong jaw, that's masculine, so therefore that's a man. And it's just fucking ridiculous. Like, these people are idiots. And we've got to take a little bit of responsibility for our community and the bullshit that is being spread. And we've also got to hold each other accountable. So I'm very grateful to my community for holding me accountable when I have shared misinformation. And sometimes, it happens, you see things, you go, oh, and you share it without verifying, because, we're all busy. No, like if we sat there and cross-referenced and fact-checked everything before we shared it, we would never get anything done, and our lives would just fall apart, because we would just become full-time conspiracy theorists, just fucking looking up everything, and that's too much. Okay, so let's just work together as a team. If you see somebody sharing misinformation, just say, hey, look, I can't see evidence of this. And I've done it with people as well. Okay, so I shared something about BJ getting his juice, and it looked like it had the lid still on it, so I posted it on my stories, and then I had 2 people share, and they said, listen, this is not true. The thing, the dispenser actually looks like that. That's not a lid. That's actually how it looks. And so I was just like, oh, okay, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And I removed it immediately. I didn't post a correction. Maybe should have, but whatever. I didn't say anything about it. I just posted the picture. So if I'd said something about it, then maybe I would have posted a correction. But somebody else shared something about, what's his face? About Bill Gates's mum, her name's Mary Maxwell or something, about her being Ghislaine's auntie, about her being the sister of, is it Jordan Maxwell? Is that his name? Oh, really, honestly, like, I've not been super keeping up to date with all of this stuff, because I'm just actually exhausted about it. And I'll talk more about that as well. But he posted something about them being related, and about Ghislaine and BG being cousins, first cousins. I mean, we know that they were friends, and we know that they had a relationship. We know that BG was on the flight logs and going to Lolita Island. We know that. But that they were cousins, so I was like, okay, this is really interesting, but I'm just going to fact check it before I share it, because it's quite sensational, so I'm going to make sure that I fact check it. So I went and kind of looked up to see if I could see the family tree and who's that and what's so-and-so, and I just couldn't see any evidence of it. It's just like, okay, that guy, what's his name, Mr. Maxwell, was from Czechoslovakia. He wasn't born as a Maxwell. How many brothers and sisters did he have? Okay, Mary Maxwell, how many brothers and sisters did she have? Who were her parents? Okay, let me see if I can find out what the brothers and sisters were all called. And I couldn't, it wasn't a match. And I just said, listen, I'm not sure where you got this from. I can't find any evidence of it. Like, Jordan Maxwell was from Czechoslovakia. He wasn't born in Maxwell. He changed his name when he later moved to the UK, I can't remember exactly, but I didn't say this is wrong, this is misinformation. I just said, hey, have you verified this, because I can't see any evidence of it. And then he made a really long status apologizing profusely, saying he felt like he's destroyed his credibility, that he posted misinformation and da-da-da. And I just said, listen, dude, chill out. Like, it happens to everyone. Everybody on all sides of this thing, everybody posts things that are not true. You've got mainstream journalists that are saying things that are not true, okay? Everybody's saying things that are not true, okay? Not always intentionally. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes they leave certain things out because it doesn't fit their narrative. We just got to hold each other accountable and understand that people aren't deliberately a lot of the time people are not deliberate. Sometimes they're deliberately misleading people, especially if they've got like a financial agenda or some other type of agenda. But other times they've just been given false information, or they've been given misleading information, or they haven't verified something, or whatever. So just hold each other accountable and just say, hey, listen, I'm not sure that that's, you know. And with this person, he was actually obsessed with this whole trans thing, and he just kept on going on about it. And so I unfriended him on Facebook because I was just like, I can't be having that person on my friend list. I find it super transphobic. I don't like it. You know, so many of my like closest friends are LGBTQ, so I'm not having any transphobic people in my sphere. But he still kept on fucking messaging me. He didn't notice the fact that I'd unfriended him. He still kept on messaging me on Instagram and saying, this person, look, Mia Khalifa is trans, look at her jaw. And I'm like, dude, Mia Khalifa is a porn star. Like, everybody has seen her bits and pieces. Like, we know that she's not, that she's a proper biological woman. Not that it even matters. I don't even know why people are so obsessed with this thing. Okay, yeah, I understand on some level because, you know, our Hieros Gamos template, our gender principle, has been very targeted for a really long time to cause sexual misery. But it's not only about, you know, being trans or being non-binary. That's not the only thing that's been going on. It's also about, you know, making men more feminine, making women more masculine, so that they fight with each other, so that they don't trust each other, so that relationships fall apart, you know, or making women too feminine so that they go in wounded feminine energy. You'll know I talk all about that. And making men too masculine so that they become very narcissistic and disconnected from their hearts. So there's a lot of that going on. But if you're only making it about the whole trans thing, then you're missing a huge part of the issue, okay? Which is our actual relationships and how to have healthy, functional relationships so that we can have healthy, functional families and healthy, functional communities and a healthy, functional society. That's what it should be about, not about which celebrities are transgender or whatever. So he was just obsessed with this thing, and probably I should have been a bit more like, listen, you know, I'm not sure that you verified this, you know, it doesn't seem to make sense, and why is it important? But he was just I just found him so annoying, and I'm sorry, but he sounded really stupid. Every time he would talk, he sounded completely stupid, and he would just make the most tenuous links that didn't seem related at all. So, you know, I did mock him a little bit. Like, I did take the piss out of him. So obviously now he's started this vendetta against me. I'm not talking about this to be like, poor me. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't think anybody's going to believe him, or, you know, I don't think he has any credibility in this community whatsoever. It's just an example of how, you know, when you swing too far the other way, it's like we think that, oh, people in our community are so awake and they know what's going on. People are spreading all kinds of bullshit, okay? So you gotta understand that both those things can be true, okay? And you've got to be able to take that middle way. The truth is always in the middle, okay? Again, when it comes to, you know, obviously right now with all the recent events that have happened, especially here in the UK, but things that are being rolled out in Europe, you'll know what I'm talking about, Australia, things are crazy everywhere, okay? It's normal to feel fear. Try and tune into that fear and really try and understand, use that fear to help you develop some compassion and some empathy for people who you perceive as being on the other side, because there are actually really no sides in this other than, you know, those that seek to enslave us and those that want to be free. And now, of course, yes, there are people who, you know, are part of the normal human collective that want to enslave other people and want to control other people. Definitely there is that consciousness that has kind of taken over people's, you know, wounds, attaches to people's wounds like a mind virus, the Wetiko, okay? That's the force that we're fighting, okay? The humans themselves that have been consumed by this tend to, that happens because of their own fears, okay? This is why the enemy loves to use fear as a weapon, because when you are in a state of fear, you are more compliant, you're less likely to think rationally and logically, you're more likely to panic, and you're more likely to do things, you know, without really thinking them through, okay? So understand that people on all sides of this have been afraid, okay? Maybe, you know, I think in a lot of people who are in the awakened community don't have, I know that this is not everyone, okay? but a lot of them don't have vulnerable members of their families, okay, or are not vulnerable themselves. And I know that that's not the case in all for everyone, because I know that many members of the awakened community are actually considered vulnerable themselves and still have taken the position that they've taken. However, you know, those people might have been through several initiations and dark nights of the soul and whatever, and basically faced a lot of sides of themselves to the point where then maybe they don't even fear death, or they just understand, you know, natural law, and you know that you're not supposed to infringe on the rights of other people. There are other people who are just literally so consumed by their own fear, because maybe they're considered vulnerable, or they have a loved one that is considered vulnerable. And understand that, you know, not everybody lives in, you know, homes where there aren't, you know, so there are some people who families are so compacted into one home that you've got several members of, like, you know, maybe 3 generations of one family all living together. So if there's one vulnerable person in that household, that is going to impact everybody. And especially, like, you know, when you've got different, you know, everybody's got different levels of privilege, right? So, you know, I understand that they've made it like a right-wing thing, because you do have to have a certain amount of privilege to just be like, I don't really care. Or not even like, I don't really care, but just like to not have to worry about going out and doing whatever you want when you don't have a vulnerable member of your family at home. So understand that people have different things that they are afraid of. And I know that a lot of people are afraid of the current, you know, things that are happening right now. But there, you know, people have got different reasons to be afraid. Completely different reasons to be afraid. And the number one thing that the enemy wants is to keep us all divided and fighting amongst ourselves. So the less that we do that, the sooner this thing ends, okay? If you keep on fighting with people and calling those people selfish and those people sheep, and, you know, saying that they're the problem because they refuse to do this, or they're the problem because they keep complying. Obviously, I get that, you know, when you comply with abusers, it doesn't make them stop abusing. It actually makes them continue to abuse, like, you know, sociopaths, narcissists, just controlling people in general. And that's what we're seeing with the government. We're actually in an abusive relationship with the government. So the more you comply with an abuser, the more likely they are to continue more control, more coercion, more abuse. It just gets worse, okay? Anybody who's been in an abusive relationship will know that. Some people don't know that, okay? They're about to learn, okay? And they're slowly learning. So every time this happens, we get more and more people asking more and more questions, who then start to come, you know, into our community where they are seeking answers. This is why I'm now saying we've got to be very mindful and start cleaning up our community and making sure that we don't sound like a bunch of crazy nutters, because frankly, there is, you know, I do think that, you know, some people are just saying things that are just not verified. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about what those things are, but I think that there's a lot of, like, talking down to people if they don't agree with your position. There's obviously this whole debate about virus theory, exosome theory, all of that stuff. And the science is not settled either way, okay? Anybody who says that the science is settled or trusts the science doesn't understand what science is, okay? Science is literally questioning science is how you do science. That's how science is done. Constant questioning, testing, hypothesizing, and, you know, observing the effects of, you know, the testing and being able to prove it to other people. That's how you do science, and it's continually unfolding as we develop new methods of testing, and it's done collectively, okay? So everybody has to kind of debate that. If you shut down debate, and this is happening on both sides, okay? If you shut down debate and you don't listen to what's happening, to the other side of the argument, then you're not actually doing it properly. You're not being a proper truth seeker. Okay, so what else do I want to say? Let me just tune in. Okay, so as we move through December, we are going to be clearing a lot from the collective shadow. And I think a lot of people are going to be very angry. I mean, we're already seeing a lot of that, you know, with this whole thing of, you know, the party, the videos of the party, they you know, them talking about the party that they had. You know, this is here in the UK. Okay, I'm trying not to use certain words, by the way, guys, because I don't want my video to get flagged. Might get flagged anyway, but and they were laughing about it. So obviously that's gonna incense a lot of people. Okay, so the more that this happens, I just want you guys to hold the line. Okay, don't be afraid. Obviously, be practical. Take whatever steps you need to protect yourself. I have shared many resources before in my Telegram and also on my previous videos. I'm not going to keep on sharing them because, you know, they can put my channel at risk if I keep on talking about certain things. So check my previous videos, watch the videos. I've also posted links in the description box, mostly on the videos that were published on Odyssey, not the videos that were published on YouTube, where I post certain resources that will be helpful for people who are kind of going through this whole thing where they're being forced to make certain decisions. So those resources will really help you. I know a lot of people have had a lot of success with using those. Get active in groups, okay? Find community. You need to be, if you're only just jumping onto this thing, you need to get extremely active. Join as many, there are some groups on Facebook, but the best groups are actually on Telegram. So join Telegram groups, start connecting with people, and sharing resources with people as you give, so you receive. So just do what you need to do in order to ride this thing out. Obviously, some people will choose to make a certain decision. Understand that, you know, your fear is a weapon that's used against you. So, you know, as much as, you know, you should never have to make a decision that you don't want to make. Like, you should never be forced into making a decision. If you are, you just got to submit. You got to, I'm not saying that you have to submit to the enemy. Submit to Creator and the divine plan, okay? When you get pushed between a rock and a hard place, God can perform miracles, okay? It's not always going to be like a negative situation, okay? I'm not like, again, I'm not like an expert on what is happening with these juice shots, because I don't know, and we don't know. Like, we're just, you know, it's an experiment, so we're seeing how this plays out, okay? But also understand that matrix jobs that you're, you know, desperately trying to hold on to might not be in your highest good. So obviously the situation is going to be different for everybody, but really start to get clear. Start listening to the voice of your soul, of your highest self, and start connecting to Creator, directly to Creator. Don't be fucking with any spirit guides or ancestors, or, I mean, you can if you want to, but I just find the clearest answers just come from directly from Creator. So I connect to the divine feminine through the wisdom of my body. My body tells me what is a yes and what is a no, and whether I want to do something, whether I don't want to do something, whether I need to negotiate something, and then also connecting to the Holy Father, the divine masculine, the immortal masculine, when I want to actually like have a conversation with Creator and like a back and forth through, you know, the thought, the mind of God, which is masculine, that kind of creative energy and like the Sorry, I can't remember what I was talking about. My camera's telling me that it's time to stop talking because my memory card is full. So yeah, that's pretty much all I want to talk about today. I should do a little Instagram poll just to see, you know, how you guys are feeling and what's going on, because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've just been, you know, really just avoiding all the nonsense recently. And I think sometimes you got to do that. There are times when you really have to get active and you got to do your research and you got to connect with people and mobilize and get involved and speak truth and, you know, all of that stuff, action oriented. And there are other times when you got to draw within and just avoid all of that stuff, okay? And you'll know when it starts getting too much. Take a break, you know, nourish your soul, be with your family, because that's what it's all about. Ultimately, it's all about being here, and all we want is just to live normal, beautiful lives with our loved ones. and just connect to the beauty of Mother Earth and all of that stuff. So do try and do that as much as possible. That is also why we came here, and that is our ultimate goal. So just bring yourself into the present moment whenever it gets too much, okay? Because that is, everything is kind of okay when you're in the present, okay? You'll realize, you know, as much as things seem crazy, a lot of the time things seem crazy because you're, you know, ruminating on the past, or you're worrying about the future. And a lot of the time, half the things you worry about don't even end up happening. So just bring yourself back into the present moment and just find those little moments of peace, you know, like enjoy food and like some incense, and, you know, cultivate a daily ritual, read a book, like all of those stuff. Just really be with yourself. And just, yeah, cultivate a relationship with Creator and hold the inner vision, okay? Because God is in control of everything. God is gonna win, okay? Ultimately, God always wins. So everything that's unfolding right now, I'm not saying that evil is good, okay? I'm not saying that the evil is serving the good, or I'm not into that false side, okay? The evil is separated from Creator, and that's why it's evil. Okay, that's why it's psychopathic. That's why it behaves like that. Okay, but ultimately, God will take everything evil and use it for good, and use it for your highest, greatest expansion for all of us, because we're all just the fingertips of God, right? We're all just emanations of the one source. So try and remember that. Okay, hope this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the box below. If you want to DM me to book a session, then just DM me on Instagram. I will love you and leave you, soul fam, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, one love.